Coming up now on Animal Outtakes. Okay, they're looking. We're fishing, but not for what you would think. Sarasota Jungle Gardens actually encourages visitors to feed one of their popular residents. It's an experience that will make a lasting impression. This pretty bird can also make some pretty paintings. Isn't this gorgeous? And Inspector Planet is getting to the bottom of one common saying. Do all sharks need to swim in order to survive? This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. Getting close to alligators on your own is not something we would ever recommend. But at Sarasota's Jungle Gardens, they are actually encouraging the interaction, saying it will bring awareness and respect to the species. Well, I've got to tell you, I respect them from a distance already, but getting this close definitely brings a new level of awareness.
Alrighty, there you go. Remember, out, and then tilt the tongs, not your hand. There
Sorry,
you go.
Cal, I tried.
Someone was a little quicker, huh?
Yeah, somebody came from the side.
Yeah. So this is actually one of my favorite things here at the Jungle Gardens. These guys are actually trained. Now, by trained, it means that they actually respond to a cue, and their cue is a tap on the wall. So you're going to watch me tap on the wall, and you're going to watch a couple of them actually turn and come more this way.
We have
a couple of them will come this way, a couple of them over here.
Here they come.
Yeah, so these guys are part of the interactions that we have here at the Jungle Gardens. People can actually feed them the same way zookeepers do. So we actually have smelt here, little fish for these guys, and we instruct visitors on how to feed them. I'm going to do it first, and then you're going to do it after me. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So you're going to take the smelt in your tongs. You're going to hold your tongs at the end. You're going to put your hand right out over top, and then tilt down the tongs, not your hand. So you can tilt right down. Yeah. And then come right up to it. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Alrighty. Here you go. I'm going to let you reach right over top, and then just tilt the tongs down. Got it? Yep, perfect. Tilt tongs down. Perfect. Yeah.
Whoa, and they come with force.
Perfect.
Yes,
yeah.
they're coming with force.
So it's teaching people how these guys actually do have a lot of power, and they are supposed to be respected.
And you know, I'm hearing a lot of grunting. They're grunting here.
That's one of the ways they communicate. They're not really like the muntjac that we talked about. They don't really bark. Instead, they kind of grunt. It's more vibration. They focus on vibrations.
And you know, it's very interesting. I tipped that tong again, and the one looked at me and said, there isn't anything in there.
Yeah, right?
I'm not about to do that. We have always warned our viewers, don't feed the alligators. So what is this experience here at Jungle Gardens going to teach us?
So anytime you see an alligator in the wild, no matter what size it is, you don't want to feed them because they can decide that people means food and actually become very aggressive. But here at Sarasota Jungle Gardens, you have the opportunity to get up close and personal with these guys. You can be able to touch them if you want, you can touch him. And people can feed them. We have a gator pool with some of our younger alligators, and you have the opportunity to feed them in a safe and regulated environment.
You know, I always get a very interested feeling when I touch them because what I think they should be, they're not. These are very cool in the touch. He's very scaly, almost like a snake. I'm feeling that. He's saying to himself, what is she doing to me? He has a lovely manicure, so that's good. Now, when I'm touching him like this, is he feeling that?
So they can feel it, and the nice thing is, since he's not moving, that means that he's at least accepting the touch. We do use these guys on a daily basis for interactions and education, and so reptiles don't necessarily like or dislike things, but if they're staying still and remaining calm like he is right now, that means it at least does feel good in some sense.
He's relaxed.
Yeah, he's just hanging out.
And I'm pretending I'm relaxed.
Oh, you're good. He's used every day. So these guys are currently doing fairly well in Florida, but their numbers weren't so high for a long time because they were actually being hunted for the fashion industry, and their pelts are being turned into purses, belts, shoes, and things like that. So thankfully in 1974, the Endangered Species Act was passed and they were protected on it. So now their numbers have returned. And that's really important because they're what we call a keystone species. And that just means that they are important for the environment. So their numbers directly determine the health of the ecosystem. And that's because they eat pest species like rodents and other things that we need to keep the numbers regulated.
So this little guy who we really are afraid of does a lot for us.
Yes, they are very important for our ecosystem. So if you ever see an alligator, please just stay away from them. Take pictures from afar, enjoy that they're there, be happy they're there, but don't mess with them.
Oh, come on, guys. You got to be better basketball players than that.
Oh, we missed again.
Oh, come on. Come on, don't bite each other. Get
Oh, one more. Let's see. Here it comes.
Let's go.
Got
Yay!
it. Good job.
Success.
Good job. And that's how you feed an alligator here at the Jungle Gardens.
And that was a great experience. And we do have respect for them. And thank you for teaching us that even though we fear them, we can cohabitate with them.
Absolutely.
The American alligator is a federally protected species. It is illegal to feed or harass wild alligators. This can cause them to lose their fear of us and make them associate humans with food. As for the alligators at Jungle Gardens, they will not be released back into the wild. Now, besides gators, we also got a close-up look at another animal that loves his food. We met a rescued cockatoo named Frosty, who has an artistic side. So I understand we have a Salvador Dali right here
Yes,
with
we do.
Frosty. And how would a bird like this learn to paint?
So Frosty's always been kind of a painter. He's got a lot of energy, so we decided to put it in a more positive way so he wouldn't be destructive with like in general. So he picked up painting with one of the old HR representatives here. He used to paint as just like a hobby, and then he actually likes it and he enjoys it since he gets so much energy out. And we made it so we're now going towards the show. So he'll eventually end up replacing the senior, right, bud?
Frosty the senior.
Yes.
And we have Frosty the junior. Now, when we talk about a junior in a bird like this, what are we talking? Years of age?
So he's 19, the senior is 82. So there's a drastic difference between the two. So where my senior is a little bit more relaxed, he's more my rambunctious little guy.
Well, you know, artists have a lot of energy and a lot of creativity. So why don't we get right down to it and see what he can do?
Okie dokie.
Now,
Good
those
boy.
first brush strokes are very broad, very broad.
We are
Okay.
working on my friend's technique. He's a little bit heavy-handed when it comes to his paint. It usually ends up more on me than it goes on the paper, to be honest.
Now, normally when he has paintings like this, are they put up for sale?
They're not put up for sale, so what I like to do is, since he's still in the training stages, if there's an audience or whatever, I usually pick out a kid or somebody they seem very interested with the birds, because that's really like that spark that makes them go in to become future zookeepers and stuff like that.
Now, if I was to say that he likes a particular color, it might be that green.
It might be, green
Is he colorblind?
No, they're very smart. They have about the same intelligence of a 3-year-old, so they can recognize colors, they can recognize shapes. So he does, we are actually, one of the behaviors I'm working with Frosty is actually picking out colored shapes from a big pile. So he can actually pick them out just by looking at them, and he can tell the difference.
He is definitely food driven.
He is. Basically, anything is pretty much food driven, especially when it comes to animals. The best way to train them is with their favorite treats. So Frosty has a number of different treats between like mixed nuts and these things called little nutriberries, which are just like fruits and seeds put together. But that's pretty much his payment. After he does a very good job painting, or every time he does a good job with his behavior, he gets a big reward.
Well, by all means, isn't this gorgeous? Done by Frosty. Someday we're going to pay a lot of money for this, Frosty. Out of the roughly 30 parrots at Jungle Gardens, nearly all of them are rescues, including Frosty Jr. Rescue means they were either given to the facility because they were neglected, surrendered, or donated. Just keep swimming. Just keep on swimming. If sharks don't, will they die? Inspector Planet is hunting for answers next.
People have asked me what it'll cost to restore all the corals back the way they remember. But I have to ask them, what will it cost if we don't do anything?
Every dog deserves a lifelong loving home. Dante's Den provides a pristine, comfortable haven for dogs that have been abandoned or surrendered by their owners. We ensure that every pup in our Joyful Dogs adoption program receives lots of love and attention, is properly immunized, spayed or neutered, and is in good health. Prospective pet parents undergo a thorough adoption review to ensure a lifetime of love and care. Find your new furry best friend at Dante's Den. For more information, go to dantesden.org or call 844-DANTES-DEN. Dante's Den, continuing the love. Science is everywhere, and it's all around us. It's observing the world, forming questions, and the willingness to find the answers. It's something our Inspector Planet does every day, and you can too.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tracy Finara. I'm an environmental engineer, which means that I use different scientific disciplines to protect the environment, humans, and wildlife. At Mote Marine Laboratory, I use investigation and myth-busting to answer questions.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Dr. Tracy, I think we've got something wrong here.
What is wrong?
They're not moving, and I know. It's over with for them. You got to do something.
They're fine.
They're not fine. They're not moving. Now I know they don't move. They're done. I know this. What are you going to do about this?
Marcia, no. But this is a common myth, so this calls for an investigation. So sharks have quite a reputation. Some people love them, some people are scared of them.
Yeah, I love them. They kind of have unfair misconceptions about them. People think they're dangerous and hunting people in the wild. It's not the truth. Very few people are actually bitten or killed by sharks every year. Many different mosquitoes are much more dangerous than sharks. However, we do a lot more damage to sharks through overfishing and especially finning, which is really destructive to shark populations.
So why are sharks so important for the ecosystem?
Well, they're a predator, and just like a lion on the savannah, they kind of do a good job of culling off the sick or older animals and just being a part of the ecosystem, being usually a top predator in an ecosystem. They're certainly important for keeping populations in check and just being that balance in the ecosystem.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, if sharks have to keep on moving to survive, a lot of people think that. Is that true?
With some sharks it's true, but with most sharks, they actually have the capacity to pump water across their gills. They have the muscles that allow them to do that. Buccal pumping is what it's called.
Okay, so we saw a shark laying on the bottom in there.
Sure. It's probably our nurse sharks, and they spend a lot of their time laying on the bottom because they do have the ability to pump the water across their gills like you saw.
It's really interesting. So what about those species that actually have to keep on moving? How many species are there?
It's a good question. There are 400 species of sharks, and while most of them can actually pump water across their gills like you saw with the nurse sharks, there are quite a few that need to swim in order to get enough oxygen across their gills through ram ventilation, where they actually open their mouths, let the water flow in their mouth and out through their gills.
It's really interesting. So what they're doing right here with their mouths open, that's kind of what they do. They open their mouth and then it goes in through the gills.
Yeah, through their mouth and out through their gill slits.
Huh. So why do some sharks have to keep on swimming where other ones can't?
Sure. Well, some of the sharks, if a shark were to stop swimming, they would sink to the bottom. They have a liver that gives them some buoyancy, but they do lack a swim bladder, which most other fish do have. The sharks that are constantly swimming and not going to the bottom, similar to an airplane, the fluid dynamics of their fins give them lift in the water and allow them to stay up in the water column as they move forward.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so a great white shark.
Sure.
Does that have to keep on swimming, or does he
Yeah,
actually?
those do need to keep on swimming. They don't rest on the bottom, and they're using a ton of energy. They're not able to. They have a large body that requires a lot of oxygen. In order to get that oxygen, they have to keep on swimming, ram ventilating, getting that oxygenated water across their gills to be able to get that oxygen to their muscles. And also then the constant swimming gives them that lift also to stay up in the water column. You'll see in the aquarium, you mentioned our nurse sharks, so they lay on the bottom. You'll see them laying in certain spots where the water is actually coming out of our filtration. And there's a lot of current right there. And the nurse shark, kind of like a dog sticking its head out the window, will put their head right where that flow is and let the water just be pumped across their gills, letting the pumps do all the work. So,
Super lazy.
oh, very lazy. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's great. So we know a few places in the aquarium where they'll orient themselves where there's a lot of water flow, where they can really just open their mouths and let the water flow across their gills. So.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So now we know only a small fraction of the total species of sharks actually have to keep on moving in order to survive. But that small fraction of species includes the great white and the mako shark, which everybody loves. So it's understandable that a lot of people think that all sharks have to keep on moving, when in fact that's not really the case.
I'm so glad to know this. Thank you.
Yep, not dead. Remember guys, anyone could be a scientist or an engineer with some passion, hard work, and curiosity of how the world works.
Many shark species are threatened due to overfishing or environmental impacts. Moult Marine has been a leader in shark conservation and research. To find out more information on its studies, visit moult.org. Who's a good girl? Who's a good boy? Positive reinforcement might be all it takes for your dog to listen. Paul is up next with tips and tricks.
Over 90% of the seafood that is coming in to this country is raised in areas of the world that don't have the highest standards. And so our approaches are aimed for two things. One is to help feed the world. The second is to do it in an environmentally friendly and sustainable way.
praise, snuggles, or treats. For my dogs, they welcome all three. When it comes to learning, the easiest way to keep your pet focused is to offer up some positive reinforcement. Paul, we hear so much about positive reinforcement. And positive reinforcement could be food-induced, treats, special food, or just plain old love. What do you feel is the best?
I'm a firm believer in that the greatest thing you can give a dog is love. Any kind of praise is 1,000 times better than giving a dog food, because when you're out of food and you don't have any more treats to do, what do you fall back on? Love and verbal praise. You get more out of a dog for love and verbal praise than you do out of food, in my personal opinion. Other trainers will do it a different way, but I've found from working with working dogs and just from being a trainer in general, verbal praise and patting and like just a good girl. Just
now, another thing which we have watched Paul for a great many years, and one of the things we notice is the inflection in his voice.
Yeah.
He really gets into their psyche. They know that they've done something wonderful. Yeah. So you feel that that's a very important component.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How can I compete with this?
Absolutely, because if you talk nice to them, they listen, right? Yeah.
So you do feel inflection in the voice.
Inflection, yeah, absolutely, because they know when you raise your voice that your tone is different, your feelings are different. They know your feelings. They know if you're upset. They understand by tones, and just the same thing for jumping. And if you want to touch on jumping real quick, when you come home and 80% of the jumping problems occur on the females, moms, daughters, whatever of the family, because of their high tone in their voice. Oh baby, they haven't seen their dog all day long, so they're talking high, which the dog is excited. Man comes home, the dog, he's like, hey, how are we doing? Sit down. So the dog is already like, oh,
bring me my slippers.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sit down. But it's the change in the tone of your voice and them allowing them to jump. Best you can do is turn around, walk away, ignore them, and give them attention when it's on your terms, not on their terms. Back in the old days, they used to raise the knee up. Nowadays, they might consider that cruel, but
it does beg one more question. I'm a kisser.
Yep.
Is that the right thing to do with your dog? Is kiss them and let them know just how much they are loved?
Absolutely. After they've done something right.
Well, you're perfect, and you always do something right.
Yeah. She's a good girl.
Stay with us. More Animal Outtakes is coming up next. So many of us have to make a decision along with you if we have an older dog. So we have a 10-year-old dog, much like Joey here. You tell us he needs surgery. oh my goodness, anesthesia. What do we do?
If you would have asked me that question 30 years ago, I would have said that the anesthesia at this age is a very significant risk to them with the newer drugs that we have nowadays, and in particular, the pain management that we have after surgery. We do not even consider their age as an anesthetic risk. An anesthetic risk is if you have heart disease or poor kidney function or poor liver function, anemia, other problems, but the age of the pet itself, we really do not even consider as a risk factor.
So then he's safe if he has to have surgery.
Correct. And then the other risk factor is the procedure itself. Depends on what you're doing. If it's a teeth cleaning versus repairing a broken leg, there's a significant difference in risk with that. But the anesthetic itself, we don't consider age as a risk factor.
You know, along these lines, we hear so much lately about renal failure in dogs. It seems like it's just rearing its ugly head. What are the symptoms? How do you treat it? And does it lead to a surgery?
It does not lead to surgery, first of all, but the main symptom of diminishing kidney function is drinking more water and urinating a larger volume of urine. It's one of the things your kidneys are supposed to do for you is retain water. The other thing is that they're supposed to do is get rid of waste product. And so on a blood test, you can see the levels of waste starting to increase very slowly. And as that starts to happen, it sets into play actually a series of hormone changes that accelerate diminished kidney function. So our goal in treating it, once they have it, is to put them on a very reduced protein diet, because protein waste is the main thing that goes out through their kidneys. When you burn carbohydrates and fat, it produces carbon dioxide and water, which you simply exhale. So we try to really reduce the amount of protein in their diet, lots of water out at all times, just like it would a person with diminished kidney function. And then very often we'll put them on products that are designed to decrease the amount of phosphorus that they absorb from their food, because that's the major waste product that sets into play those hormone changes that accelerate loss of kidney function.
So if we do everything that you tell us to do, can we continue to give our dogs a good, long life?
Absolutely. And I've often said that if I have to pick a disease to die from, it would be diminished kidney function, because pasta is the treatment for that.
Well, I think Joey would agree with you on that one. We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. We'll be back here again next week with even more animals and some wild adventures. Until then, thanks for watching.
Marsha, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if I should wait for the camera or not.
They're moving. Hold it, they're moving.
Frosty, hi Frosty. You are a pretty bird, and you did a pretty painting today. Thank you, buddy. Frosty.
Oh, come on. Come on, don't bite each other. Get it. Oh. Come on, let's go.